Well, welcome everybody in the room and online. I am Rachel McDonald from Jobs for the Future, and I am joined by Jamie Harris, who is here virtually. Do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Good afternoon, everyone. Jamie Harris with World Education, and happy to share about the DRAW initiative with you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. All right, let's go to our next slide. So today we are going to share a little bit about the DRAW project, which I know, at least in the room, I think at least one person knows of DRAW. How many of the rest of you are familiar with the DRAW project? Okay, so we've got one person who knows a lot, and then everyone, this is new information. And I don't know if we can find out from the online folks how many of them have some familiarity already or not, but all right, well, good. And we'll get some new people introduced to DRAW, which is great. So we'll tell you about the project and what we've been up to. We'll tell you about the resources that are available now, the resources that we hope will be available soon. Yes. Okay. Potential engagement opportunities in the future, and we'll have some time for Q&A. And sorry, it looks like if I try to figure out how to make it so that I'm not just a dark blob here, and also so you can hear me. But I'll prioritize being heard.
I can hear you. I think the microphone is just a little staticky, but I can hear you well.
Okay. All right. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the DRAW initiative, this is a federal OCTAE-funded initiative that is intended to build the capacity of adult education programs to build the digital skills and the digital resilience of their students, to support states and programs in guiding implementation and delivering their own professional development, to support educators in building digital literacy and digital skills, and then providing additional guidance to the adult ed field on navigating, in particular, the growth of artificial intelligence and many of the other trends that are impacting the digital skill needs of your students. You can go to the next one. And the DRAW project is a partnership between JFF and World Education. So we have a great team on both sides of JFF and World Ed. We've been working together now for nearly 4 years. We're now in this is the second phase of the DRAW project. We had a 3-year first phase of the work, and now we're in the first year of the next phase. So many of us have been collaborating for quite a while on this project. And we also engage a large number of subject matter experts and coaches. So we are very excited about all the folks that we are working with. And let's go. All right, so now we're going to get some participation. And so we're going to use Mentimeter, and we're going to try doing this with both the virtual and the in-the-room participants and get some input from all of you.
So if you're not familiar with Mentimeter, you can type in this URL and enter the code you see on the screen, or use the QR code. It allows us to hear from you, and in a space where some people are in person and some people are online, this kind of unites us in some way. We'll use Mentimeter throughout the presentation, so you can keep it open on your phones. And just give you a second, and then we will move forward with the Mentimeter. If you need the code, it's 1295711 Put the link in the chat for those of you online who would prefer to access it on your computer. Are we ready?
I think so. Folks in the room, are you ready? All right. Yep, I think we're good.
Okay, so first, who's in the room? Online, in person. So on your screen, on your phone or on your laptop, you should see this survey, and you just select the option and it will appear here, and we'll see everyone's responses together. We're looking to see if there are DRAW participants, DRAW coaches, instructors, PD leaders, administrators, or other.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let me see if I can get the. Okay, so go to Mentimeter.
At the top here. You can see the URL and the code at the top if you missed it.
Yep. Yeah. We did have a draw coach pop into the room for
Okay.
about 2 seconds, but I think he left before he could
I'm
fill out the
curious who
Mentimeter.
is other. If others in the room or online, please share. Okay, so the next slide, I'm just going to move forward. You should be able to still fill this in. In one word or short phrase, could you name a digital skill?
Yes, my colleague Shikari can try to help you troubleshoot.
Are you troubleshooting in the room?
We're doing some
Okay,
troubleshooting.
all right. I'll make sure it's working too on my end. Oh, yes, I see some responses coming
Okay,
in.
great.
We have 2 people in the Mentimeter right now.
Okay. Well, we got a lot more responses here.
4, all right.
It's troubleshooting.
It's okay.
We are seeing troubleshooting is a digital
And
skill.
I'm putting another link in the chat. If you're having problems online, try this second link. I just put a different link in the chat.
Okay. Did you guys figure it out? Okay, great.
Okay, so we
got 15 responses.
see typing, Google searches, learning, uploading an attachment, using the computer, opening a new window, excellent, troubleshooting. Let's see, software listed in here, AI prompts, critical thinking. Ooh, yes. Using Menti. Yeah, that's right. Navigation. Great. Great. If you did not attend a session by Jeff Gumas, it starts with closing the gap. It really goes into something that we're going to talk about today, but it also, he spent some time talking about digital skills, and it's a really neat activity that he did in his session during CoWave. So I'm just going to put a plug in for Jeff's session. That was a few days ago. All right, so next, digital literacy is the ability to use information and communication technologies to find, evaluate, organize, create, and communicate, requiring what? I feel like I should have some music. Both cognitive and technical skills, the fountain of youth, or online tutorials. 100% right. Although we may feel it's the fountain of youth sometimes. Okay, nice. Okay, great. So, we've listed some skills. We've talked a little bit about what digital literacy is. Can you tell me why this topic is important to you? Why are you in our session now? Why is digital literacy, why are digital skills important? This is an open-ended part of the Menti. Go ahead and let us know why this is important to you. Break down barriers. It's fantastic. And you say high school equivalency, but I would also propose it goes into their personal lives as well as after the high school equivalency exams. But that's a great place to start, especially since these exams are online. Access for marginalized learners. Of course, there it is, advance in personal growth and employment. Responsibly, oh, I like that word in there, responsibly engage my students 200 years ago. Knowledge was only available to those who could afford to buy a book. Now, nearly all human knowledge is available to anyone with a public library card or a phone. Knowledge, as some people would say, has been democratized. And so, how can we give access to anyone and everyone, especially our adult learners? Fantastic. Okay,
Okay,
I think that's the last one for now.
I think so.
All right, let's go back to these slides. Thank you for your responses. And I do want to share the one definition we didn't walk through was digital resilience. So digital skills, typing, using a keyboard, uploading a file, swiping, these skills are digital skills. And then digital literacy is what we use those skills for. Are we communicating? Are we creating? Are we organizing? Are we producing? What are we doing with all of these skills and what are we trying to accomplish? But digital resilience is really interesting, and it might be a new term for some of you. You know the word resilience in many contexts, but for our project, this is the definition we've adapted through the Digital Loss Coalition report, which is cited at the bottom, but it signifies having awareness, skills, agility, and confidence to be empowered users of new technologies and adapt, because we know that tomorrow there will be a new app and tomorrow there will be a new skill required. And so how do we face these new technologies when they come? And so that's digital resilience. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel to talk a little bit about digital resilience in the American workforce, which is the name of this initiative.
All right. So as we said at the beginning, DRAW is a federal initiative which is really designed to address what we know is a key need in adult education and workforce development. And I think, wait, Jamie, you're moving the slides. I won't touch the computer. So here's a little bit about what we know. There's a lot more we could say about what we know about the state of things today, but just a few things to sort of get you thinking about sort of why this matters for adult education. One is that we know, and you can sort of nod or give me a glance if this is accurate. We know adult learners depend a lot on their smartphones to access information and communicate. They need the skills to be able to use those smartphones well and get the information that they need. Digital native is not really a thing that, no matter what age you are, no matter what age you got online for the first time, support is needed to build those digital skills and to really be truly digital resilient. And we also know that 1 in 3 adults lack the digital skills that are in demand in today's workforce. We didn't include this stat in there, but we know that nearly 90+% of all jobs require some degree of digital skills. And so this is a real barrier, and a couple of you mentioned barriers before to being able to succeed and access good jobs and also succeed in those jobs. And especially when we think about the workforce, we think about the ways that things are changing every day. It used to be you could teach people how to use Google, and now we have to think about how do we teach people how to use AI prompts. It used to be more that we focus on manual skills and machining, and so many of those pieces are now incorporating technology. So nearly every job requires some aspect of interfacing with technology. It's not just about IT careers. It's not just about a handful of things. It's really infused in every single occupation. And so we need to think about how we're infusing those skills for our students so that whatever their career goals are, they are able to be successful on the job. And so what does that mean for us? It means that we have an opportunity in taking what we do as teachers in the classroom and making it really relevant. So quick, maybe I don't know if we can do a show of hands in the virtual room, but how many of you use technology in some way, shape, or form in your classrooms if you're a teacher? So we got a lot of yeses. We've got some hands raised online too. So yes, so the question then is how do we make what we're doing in the classroom really relevant to what people will be interacting with outside of the classroom? And a lot of what we focus on in this project is thinking about how do we make sure that we're being really intentional with how we are using technology in the classroom so that we're building skills that will be valuable outside of the classroom. How can we make sure that, if we're using polling software as part of our class, then we're talking about how that transfers to things where you might be needing to fill out a job application form online, and making sure that we're being thoughtful about how we're talking to students about those skills and the skills that we're building and how those will be used in their daily lives. Sorry, one sec. So the draw project, I didn't put all the history slides in here, but just for your awareness, we started off with a landscape scan in the first year of the project, and then from there built a number of professional development resources, and then developed a professional development experience for teachers. And we are currently in the middle of our 4th cohort of teachers that are going through this project. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about their journey, what that looks like, and how we've structured it for really making it a good learning experience that leaves teachers feeling equipped to apply what they've used at the end. Oh, thank you for bringing me water. We've done a lot of refinement over time, and I think the main thing we've learned is that when you're talking about digital resilience and integration of technology, it is really important for instructors to have time to learn and digest information, try things out in their classrooms, reflect on how that went, come back together and reflect in group settings, work closely with each other, and then iterate and try again, add more knowledge, try again. It's like there's a lot to learn and a lot to think about. Okay, how do I use this in my classroom? What does this mean for me in my classroom setting? We could share more about how we've gotten to there, but I think where we are now is really thinking about how do we slowly scaffold learning for instructors so that you are building your own digital skills, you're building your awareness of the resources out there, and thinking about how you can apply it in your classroom so that your learners are getting the best experience. So we've developed a 4-month cohort experience that involves a mix of synchronous learning sessions where we dive into resources and content. We have small group learning circles that are facilitated by coaches who really help work through some of those reflection pieces, talk about what people are learning and what they're seeing in their students in their classroom. We do instructional coaching that includes an observation, so a virtual classroom observation where instructors get feedback on how it's working in their classroom and how they're using technology. Instructors are encouraged to try small things and then build from there. We have resources that participants engage with over the course of those 4 months. And then we end with a capstone experience that really celebrates learning and growth. And the goal is that from there, the instructors who participate are really equipped to move forward and continue to iterate and experiment and improve what they're doing in the classroom, and continue to engage with the resources beyond that point. It's really designed to be very learner-driven. People can decide which resources are most relevant to them depending on their classroom context, depending on their program context, depending on their own comfort with technology, as well as what tools and resources they have available to them. And we've certainly encountered, a wide range of programs that have a lot of technology tools available and some that are really limited. And we figure, all of them are encouraged to figure out what will work for them. Just to sort of visualize the journey a bit more, we do like to think about it as a journey. It's not a, one-time training. We get our participants oriented to the program. We really focus on reflecting on where you're starting from and what you need to learn in order to shape your draw journey. We build out that learning journey over the 4 months, and then we end with the capstone. And then alongside of this, we're also working with state PD leads and program PD leads to think about how they can then take this draw experience and use it in their own programs. So I did see we had a couple of PD leads and administrators in the session. So I'm going to have Jamie share a little bit about how we're working with our PD leads, because we want to make sure that we are not just reaching a handful of instructors, but really broadening this out to reach more instructors around the country.
Yes. And so that's one of the things that's shifted from the first iteration of draw to this one, where we're really, really focusing on the needs of PD leads, not only to scale, but for some to implement any digital literacy, digital resilience PD in their state, their region, or program. So this second cohort, second iteration, we've invited programs to participate in draw. And so we have a PD guide for PD leads. There will be meeting with coaches. I'm one of the coach, and Alex Harris is another coach. And we'll have learning circles with PD leads. And ultimately, at the end, during the capstone, each PD lead should have an implementation plan in place that aligns good PD practices with good instructional, integration of digital skills, literacy, and resilience, putting those two together and providing an implementation plan for that state, region, or program to get draw in their programs, get draw in their states, get draw to as many people as possible, so that we can reach as many students as possible. Because really the work we do is for our learners, and we have to help train our teachers in digital resilience to then reach our students. So the next part of our session today is we're going to jump into some resources. We have a few activities in our session today, and this one is highlighting four resources. And you'll get an opportunity to look at it during our session, because I know there's so much information you've received at CoWave, and so we want to give you a little bit of time to explore. But the first one I'd like to start talking about is the Digital Skills Library. Raise of hands. Anyone familiar with the Digital Skills Library?
We got one person in the room.
Okay, I think I know who that person is. So one of the really amazing things that I have seen my colleagues do well is service learning professional development through EdTech makerspaces. And that means that educators are participating in and engaging in putting together, curating, creating resources for other educators. The Digital Skills Library is an example of how this EdTech makerspace has worked, where we have educators, adult education teachers, instructors, navigators, pulling together resources that would be beneficial for the field. And so in the chat, I've added the link. And on the screen, I'm showing you the Digital Skills Library. And the best way to explain this is it's a repository of free learning resources. Free, right? So no cost to you. And the way it works is that it takes digital skills and organizes them by domains, one of which is communication. One of them is, there we go, they're right here, creation, device ownership, mobile, and so on and so forth. But it takes free resources and organizes it for you. So, for example, let's say, Rachel, what do you want to learn about?
Let's see. Let's learn about email.
Email. So I'm going to type email in this search bar, and you automatically see below resources about email. You'll see lessons. You'll see quizzes and assignments. There are e-modules. There are videos. You'll see some of them come from GCF Learn Free. Others come from Whisk Online. Others come from other resources. And so what this does, and I love this tool a lot because there's so much out there. There's so much out there. And it's like, how do I even start? Well, if there's a skill you're trying to teach your learners or developing yourself, you can come to the Digital Skills Library, type in what you're looking for, and find resources. You can organize it by the source. You can organize it by different types of formats like video and what I had mentioned previously. And you also can include, there's other languages in here. Right now I see English and Spanish, but I know that have other resources in other languages, and I think there's some fine tuning happening at the moment. And you can also look at it by specific skills. Really cool tool. You'll get a moment to explore it in a moment. I'm going to go through a few resources and then give you time to pick one and then take a look. I see online, Michael, you've been using GCF Learn Free for many years. You have learners create portfolios by completing units and getting badges and certificates. Awesome, awesome. So this can also supplement what you've done for years, because it also provides other resources as well, focused on the topic that you're focused on in your classroom. So the other resource, also created by an EdTech Makerspace by educators for educators, is the Digital Skills Glossary. Let me put this in the chat. It's actually the same website, but at the top, you'll see Digital Skills Glossary, and you click here, and this is what it looks like. So the Digital Skills Glossary was developed by over 40 educators in February of 2023 as a part of this DRAW initiative. The glossary has three main components: the instructor guide, and let me scroll up here. The instructor guide, the glossary index, and the vocabulary slides. And you can see that it's organized differently. One has A to Z, the other one is thematic. I've used the thematic ones in my classroom. Each component is offered under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike license by World Education, which means, ultimately, that means it's free to use, copy, and or adapt. And I've spoken with people in other industries, like they have taken it and translated it for their clients. Like some refugee serving organizations have taken this and made it their own, and they're able to do that because of the Creative Commons license. So what is this? This is the language of technology, the language of digital skills. I have worked with English language learners for many years, and there's this assumption, I think, for many people that our students know what swipe means and what at means. And if I ask my Spanish-speaking students who are maybe basic, low beginning learners, and I say, what's your email? They may say, jaime.harris@gmail.com. And I'm like, well, if you go to an interview, they're not going to understand arroba. So how about we work on some of this vocabulary? So let me just show you the thematic slide just so you can get a sense, and then we will be able to explore. This is thematic in that the vocabulary is divided by these themes that you see on the slide here: email and messaging, safety and security, etc. And let me click here for the moment. If I stick with this topic of email and messaging, the first slide behind it shows all the words, vocabulary that is included in this section. And then when you go to the slide, you will notice it has the term, it has pronunciation. So when you click here, there will be audio, there's a definition, and there's use of it in a sentence. So it's a really useful tool for helping students develop the language of digital skills and literacy. The next tool, I'm going quickly, but I don't think I have to, Rachel, right? We're good on time.
We're good, yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next tool that I would like to show you is the Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit. So the Digital Skills Library is a part of the DRAW initiative, but the development of it began before DRAW, and content has been added to it as a part of DRAW. The Digital Skills Glossary was created as a DRAW activity, and the Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit has existed prior to DRAW, but has been added to and enhanced by the DRAW initiative, and we continue to work on it. And it's really exciting because what you will see in this second iteration of DRAW is that Bridges is incorporated into our resources and into what practitioners are engaging in the cohorts. It doesn't say framework because it's more than only a framework. The framework is a part of it, and it was it's informed by the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative. The researchers for that research project has given World Ed, Jeff is really the brainchild of this toolkit, has given permissions and encouraged us to develop this toolkit to advance the research work of SDEI. And so it is designed to bridge the divide between the skills and resources adults need and the various barriers they face in navigating the ever-growing list of digital devices, applications, tasks, and processes to which people must continuously adapt to. The 75 skills defined in the Bridges framework, along with various resources and tools, will continuously be adjusted and expanded upon. So this will be worked on continuously so that it's relevant. We know things change with technology, and we'll continue to work on growing this toolkit. But let me put this toolkit in the chat. And really, we could present on one of these resources. But we are just going to squeeze in multiple, and hopefully you could pick one that you dive in deeper into. So the Bridges toolkit can be found on that same website that I shared earlier. At the top, it says Bridges. There is a PDF version and a docs version in English and also in Spanish. But where I really would like to go is Bridges Interactive. It takes the content of the PDF and makes it more interactive. Here you can see we have our domains that you saw earlier. Information skills, lifelong learning, online life. Same domains, that you saw in the library are represented here. And when you click on one of them, you can explore the domain even more by looking at the skills required. The vocabulary comes from the glossary, tools, resources, and empowering practices. You'll see there are some guiding questions at the top to help you understand a little bit more about this domain. But there is a framework, and from the framework, there are resources to support the learning and development of that specific skill within a domain. I'm going to pause because I'm just talking away. Any questions?
Yeah. Do we have questions in the room? There might be one in the Hoover chat too. You can see. Okay. I think I see them on the Zoom chat. I don't know, Jamie, if we can see those.
Yes, I'm responding. Someone was trying to see the chat, and I was just saying that in order to access the chat, you have to go into Hoover.
Got it. Okay, good. Okay, so no questions so far?
I don't see any online. Any questions online? Probably lots. You just don't want to put it in the chat right now. That's fine. Okay, the last resource I'm going to share is a checklist. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give you 5 minutes to spend time in one of the resources so you can test it out a little bit and take a look on your own without me talking. So the last one I'm going to share with you is the checklist. All right, so the toolkit that we just talked about has several checklists to support goal setting and self-assessment. One is a skills checklist for different learners. And this is to help practitioners and programs define digital skills required for different learner types. Another one is a self-assessment, asking the user to state whether or not they're confident in performing 19 digital activities. So let me click this link here so you can see it. Move this over. This is where the link should take you. And you can see there are multiple checklists. So based on your goals in the classroom and with the students that you have, you can choose a checklist for that person. Not every student is looking for employment. So maybe it has to do more about skills for a parent or specific to our older learners, our senior citizens, or for life or a beginning user, whatever the case may be. These are the 10 different checklists, and the tabs at the bottom match
Jamie,
those.
can you zoom in on
I
this screen a
can.
little bit?
Yes, I can. How's that?
Thanks.
Better? All
Yeah.
right. Sorry about that. So let's look at skills for employment. It'll take you to tab 4 down here. And it shows the different skills directly related to employment. So here's a domain again, and the skills associated with that domain, and some more details to help guide understanding that skill. And I could keep scrolling, but this is an example of one of the checklists. So I'm curious, in the chat or in person, how can you see these checklists being used with your students? Is there an activity that comes to mind of how this could be used online? I'll look in the chat.
For those in the room, we can grab the mic if you want to just speak up.
And actually, if does anyone, I actually think it might be better to ask this after you get to explore it,
Okay.
if that's all right.
Sure.
So we're going to give you 5 minutes. Checklist is way cool, says Michael. I work with a very diverse group of folks, and this will help with differentiation. Okay, awesome. Wonderful. So I'm going to actually put all of these resource links in the chat. And for those of you in person, there's that QR code is specific to the checklist because the URL is so long. But remember, you can go to digitalskillslibrary.org and access the library, the glossary, and the toolkit. So I'm going to be quiet. We have about 5 minutes. Pick one and just take a look at it, and then we'll chat a little bit about it afterwards. You have about one more minute, and then we're actually going to get into just talking to your neighbor. Just one more minute. Okay, so 5 minutes have passed by. Let's give a minute or so for those of you in person, if you wouldn't mind talking to the person next to you. Hopefully, you're not too spread out. Is everyone
A
really
little bit.
spread out? Okay. Should we do neighbor or just a general conversation, Rachel? Since you're in the room and you can see.
It's a pretty small group, so we could, let's do, let's just have a general conversation, and we can also use the mic
Great.
and try to follow along if folks want to put stuff in the chat too.
Yes. Okay, great. So what I'm curious to hear is which resource you looked at and what did you observe and how you think that you could use it in your own context. And online, I see Michael said the spreadsheet is gold. That's awesome. I think you mentioned differentiation before, but would love to hear from others online. Go ahead, Rachel.
Right. Anyone in the room want to share an observation about what they looked at and how they might use it? All right, we've got, we're going to use the microphone so everyone can hear.
I was looking at what is fake news, because one thing I teach is fact or opinion.
Ah,
And I was also looking at the trolls.
at the what?
The trolls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And which resource were you in?
I started out in this one. In
Bridges? Okay.
Bridges Toolkit, yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great.
Okay.
Great.
I started out in the library and I was looking around because I teach like a crash course in Google. And so I was looking to see if there was any supplementaries, and there were.
Oh, good.
So I can definitely take some of that someone else had created and I can add it to my own curriculum.
Excellent.
That's wonderful, because I think I will say adult educators do a lot in our classrooms, and our desire, I think Rachel, I'm not speaking for you, but our desire is to provide resources to help you do what you're doing in your classroom.
Yes.
So I'm really glad to hear that this can supplement what you're doing, and not necessarily have to be a full add-on, but just
Right.
go along with what you're doing.
One more observation in the room, and then you can tell me if there's anything else in the chat.
I took a look at the glossary. That's thematic. It's beautiful. I also feel like I need a lot more time in this, because as I was clicking on things, it's like a labyrinth, or it just keeps opening up to more and more
Yes.
and different. And so I feel like I think I need to take some dedicated time to sift through what's here, because it's quite comprehensive. So
That is wisdom. I hear wisdom. So I've been teaching for 18 years, and I just thought one day I would go in the class, and I was, you know, things, all your lesson plans don't work out as you hope. And I thought, you know what, this activity is not working. Let me add something on. And I decided to add a thematic section of the glossary. You need time to sit with it for it to be successful and figure out how to implement it. But this instructor guide is really helpful because it actually provides lesson activities using the slides. So that's just my advice from maybe not the best experience implementing without really preparing as I should have.
And that is a lot of, when I talked about the professional development experience, a lot of why we've thinking about that, about the pacing, is I think we started off with a little bit of that fire hose approach of let's just give you all the resources, and unsurprisingly, people felt a little bit overwhelmed about how, this is great, but what do I do with it all? And so we've been really working on how do you slowly infuse things over time and think about what you can try, and then building from there. So, you're not getting overwhelmed and then pushing it all away. You're really working slowly towards integrating things into your classroom. One more in the room.
I had more of a question on how, I guess, instructors, facilitators, teachers are using this. So I work for AT&T, and so I work with partner organizations that are using digital literacy resources and teaching folks that need this the most. And so I just want to, I guess, better understand how folks are using these resources, because I was looking at the digital skills library, and it's really good information. Y'all cover such a wide variety of topics, which is amazing. But are folks using this to help teach in their classrooms? Like, are they finding this, or is it more maybe where folks are using this to practice like on their own? Just wanted to get a better sense of how they're using it.
Jamie, what have you seen?
Many different ways. First, I will say we've had digital navigators participate in cohorts, teachers, we've had administrators, PD leads. For each of those different audiences, the application is different. We've even had refugee serving organizations take these resources and provide it to the refugees that they're working with in their case. Like they have a one-on-one with certain refugees, and they provide the library, for example, to help them, and they give them a playlist to help them navigate certain skills that maybe they don't have time to work on in the moment with that learner. Digital navigators, when they work one-on-one, they can provide it to the students themselves. But when we talk about administrators and PD leads, they also are developing the skills of their practitioners. And so it could be a whole group setting where tools are used. It can be self-directed PD goals. And so the teacher is provided with resources to develop their own skills based on the goals that they want. So it really differs. One thing I will say, two things I will say. Ultimately, for a draw, we're aiming for people to develop EdTech routines because we're working on digital resilience, not just I know how to use this tool, because the reality is tools change. Once it was Word, then Google came in, then something else will come. And so how do we adapt across these different tools that may try and accomplish similar things? And that comes, one way that comes is through EdTech routines. So it's not looking at all of these resources and trying to apply all of these resources, because we have a lot. There's more, and we're not sharing it right now. But it is maybe taking one, using the resource to help develop routines, which is repeatable activities. So an individual becomes comfortable using that tool and developing that skill. And then thereby creating digital resilience. And I hope I haven't gone too far from answering your question. But EdTech routines are key here. And we just have resources to help sort through all of what exists and help our practitioners through coaching narrow in on a skill or a domain to develop digital resilience. Rachel, please add if I missed anything.
No, I think that was good. Does that help with your question? Okay.
in these more self-paced sections, like I'm looking at from GCF Global, that have like, I'm looking at online banking 101 right now because we're planning a financial literacy curriculum. So thank you. But are these translated at all? Are these lessons?
Some of them are. I think you can search. You can search the library for.
Oh, okay, at the top.
Yeah, and so if the lesson is available in another language, then you can. I think this is an area where we would like to see more resources in general. More multilingual resources that then we can add to the library so that you can get to, the specificity of I want to do financial literacy with my Spanish speaking students, with my Haitian Creole speaking students, and then actually find those resources. So that's
Yeah,
a,
okay.
a
It
need,
looks
that's a
like when
need.
I translated it to Spanish or Portuguese, it would just translated the entire site
Okay.
and not that one
Oh, yeah,
lesson.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
because this is, I mean, we're curating things that exist,
Okay.
so, you
okay.
yeah.
And
so-
it's an excellent question. I can ask my colleagues, we'll share our contact information. We have, for example, we've been informed of different organizations that have done different things with these resources, like the slides, and translated the slides, for example, into Spanish. And I'm wondering at this moment if those resources have been provided back to us that we can share. And if that's the case, then translation's a little expensive, as you know. And so unless you have a student do it, which is not a problem either, maybe that's an activity that uses the, knowledge of the learners, and there are ways of doing it. But if you reach out, I can ask and find out if that's helpful to you.
Do we have any
For online folks who have
Yeah.
questions, if you use the hand raise feature, we can unmute you so you can
Oh, we can?
speak. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Do we have any online questions?
We have quite a few comments, but if
Okay.
anyone wants to raise hand.
All right. Do you want to share any of the comments? I think it's hard we can't really see the comments unless we're
Okay.
on the Who by
So-
Now, so.
Ada says, I think it's really great because it targets each learner depending on their particular situation. It's not one size fits all. Shakari, are you looking at the chat too? Did you want to read a few of these?
Yeah.
I'm happy to continue. I just didn't know if you.
No, and I'm looking at the time and actually realizing that both the comment you just read and then the previous question actually dovetail nicely with what we wanted to do to close ourselves out. So maybe this is a good time to talk about our next our final activity of the session. This time seems to fly by quickly.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, thank you for your participation. It is not, we only have 10 minutes. Huh? That's what you're saying, Rachel.
That is what I'm saying. I'm not sure how that happened.
But
so
it's
I do wanna
good, it's
pause
good.
here. So just for transparency, so we've shared a few resources. There's actually quite a few more draw resources that are currently being reviewed by ACTE, and we hope that they will be available for the field in the near future. So if you scan this code and fill out the form, we can email you when those things are available and send you links to those, because Jamie mentioned the ed tech routines. We have in process, we have a playbook that talks about using ed tech routines to contextualize digital skills in the context of even further contextualized lessons. And we have an online course for teachers. So all of those things are in the works. And if you want to share your information, we will happily let you know when those things are around and available, and keep you posted on any future engagement opportunities that come up. And we can always go back to that slide at the end too if you didn't get a chance to fill it in. But one thing we wanted to do, just to get some of your input as we close out, is, and I think as you said, like we all serve a very different sets of learners in our classrooms. And the things that we've created so far are largely general, although we do have some multilingual resources, but we also know that there may be specific supports needed for different classroom settings, different learner groups. and wanted to get a little sense of, based on where you're coming from, who you teach, what your setting is, are there some things that we should be considering as we think about potentially new resources or new packaging of resources? And what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you see that we might be able to address in the future? One theme also among that is sort of where we see the impact of AI playing into what's needed. We are thinking now about how we can bring in more resources on both how to use AI for teaching and also how to teach your students about AI. And we know that that's going to be a high need across all of our classrooms. But we had a few different learner groups in mind that we know there are some unique opportunities and challenges, and thought maybe we could do a little bit of brainstorming together about what those additional supports could be, what those opportunities are, and then just what those unique challenges are.
And
There
Rachel,
might
I'm
be
happy
other
to take
groups.
notes, just because I don't think we have time for the different Mentimeters. If you
Yeah,
want to
and
just
if
have
it's
a
a small group,
conversation,
we might be able to, do that more
I'm
informally.
ready. Okay.
But, so some of the groups that we've thought about, and you could tell us if there's groups that are missing. Um, English learners is a major one, and we could certainly break that down even further. Older learners, learners in IET programs, learners in correctional settings, people with learning differences. Are there other learner groups that come to mind when you're thinking about the work that you do and sort of where specific supports might be needed?
So I know in Iowa, we have a very large Mennonite population.
Whoa.
And so we have quite a few Mennonite students with our normal, I don't know, city dwellers, I guess is what you would call them. And so trying to teach our Mennonite students the very basics while our city dwellers are normal with like phones, and we might be able to go into more just like more typing practices. And so trying to figure out those differences.
Interesting. How would we categorize not like limited, like minimal exposure to technology as a group? Any other in the chat or in the room, any other learner groups that are particularly important for you, depending on the work you do?
There's a comment in the chat from Carly. Carly says, I work with older adults 60 plus, and we experience a lot of emotional barriers in them learning and adopting tech, addressing strategies for how to approach and handle those psychological factors and responses and teaching them would be very helpful, and also rural communities.
Yep. Good. One more in the room. It's okay.
I should have given 2 mics for every room. I think that this learner could be underneath a few of these categories, but just parents, I have found, but parents and their children together, like family literacy programs where the curriculum is designed so that the parent is learning alongside the child, maybe in the same room or in the same activity, so that everyone's benefiting and the parent feels empowered over their child's digital use, because that is a very common topic amongst or even just caregivers, are feeling like, I don't know what my kid is doing online. I don't even know, because I don't know what's online. I don't know what's
Right.
there. I don't know everything. Yeah.
That's important. And I think you did see that there's one of the checklists is for parents, so maybe that gets into some of that. But I think that's really helpful to think about, like, what would this, and that's something we haven't talked about, is like family literacy programs and how would you integrate digital skills into family literacy programs. This is great. We're already getting some good just ideas about different learners we could focus on. So we
We
had,
have another one in the
good.
chat. From Eliana. Normally, I'd suggest you create a special category for recently resettled refugees, but not sure how many resettlement agencies will be able to continue to resettle folks right now.
That's a fair concern, but yeah. So what we were initially thinking about doing, and I'm not sure, given the size of the group, if this makes sense, was to have you all do a little bit of individual brainstorming on challenges and opportunities using Mentimeter, which we can do, but that might be something that might be more cumbersome than necessary. So one thing we might do is see, like, is there, if you think about this these different groups we've talked about, like, are there some specific challenges related to any one of these groups that you'd want to elevate? Are there things that you've seen as some opportunities that we might want to consider? I think it's really helpful just to hear from you all who are in the classroom of what you're seeing and where there are things that we maybe haven't considered in our work. I mean, everything I've heard so far is stuff that I'm like, oh, we've talked about a lot of things, but that hasn't come up yet. And it's really helpful just to understand the needs that you're seeing and how we can think about addressing those in the future. I don't know if there's any particular learner groups that really resonate or any, go for it, go for it. Well, unfortunately, the online, yeah, I know, the online folks can't hear the teacher voice, but.
I'm with the Refugee Resettlement Agency, and we have a very large population of emergent literacy learners across our U.S. offices, particularly a lot of women, and those with interrupted education. And so any kind of digital tools, they have to use phones in the United States. I mean, and if we think about this group from a strength-based approach, their memories are gold because they have to memorize everything, and their oral literacy is really strong. And so digital literacy, I haven't found a lot of digital literacy material out there, though, that particularly thinks about their understanding of icons and their understanding, so the print literacy piece with the digital literacy piece, and an interactive curriculum that could really empower a teacher to reach that group I haven't seen anything on the market like that, so.
Jamie, do you have any ideas? I know this is something we've talked a little bit about.
I think there's room. And I'm just smiling because we talk so much about strength-based approaches in this project, starting from what our learners know and building off of that. So my heart just got so happy when you said that. So thank you for saying that. I think there's opportunity here. There's a little bit of icons in the glossary, but there's so much more. So thank you for suggesting that. And when we share our email, if you have more ideas, please send a message. I'd love to chat.
Any other thoughts from the room or on the online room about where more resources might be needed?
I want to ask something really specific. We've shared a glossary, a library, checklists, and a toolkit. With these recommendations, are these the types of resources that you think is helpful in your context, or do you have an idea of something else that could be created beyond what we've shared today?
One idea here.
So I'm getting a master's in digital literacy, so I'm trying to find like mini activities to do each day in a class, just for my students to get used to like typing on a computer, so that way they have less barriers to cross, I guess, when they go for their high school equivalency exams. So really just like 5 or 10 minute digital literacy activities beyond just like a typing class. Just small things like that.
You would love our EdTech routine resource that is being currently updated to align with federal requirements, but the EdTech routine would be the answer to that. So if you do put your information in that Mentimeter form, and when those documents become available, take a look at that EdTech routine.
I guess also to build on Jimmy's question, beyond, resources like toolkits and websites, like what other support do you need as instructors in terms of professional development or study groups or online courses? Like what are the things that would help you grow your skills? Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, we do need the microphone because, yeah, you can't hear, yeah, this microphone can never pick you up.
I just want to emphasize that I really like that you're doing cohorts. Um, I sometimes think it's less about resources because there's so much high quality content on the internet already that it's more just about giving educators a chance in like a low stakes environment to try new things, make mistakes together, share their experiences. So even if we had these extraordinary resources, I think the key is just creating space for educators to talk to each other because the future is uncertain. We don't know what best practices are. So we just need people trying new things and sharing what they're learning along the way. So kudos to the cohorts.
Yeah. And I think that is why we talk about it being a journey too, is that it really is, from starting from like, why am I here and what am I doing and what am I going to do with all these resources to like feeling empowered themselves around like, I can do this. Now I have some ideas for what I can weave into my classroom. And I don't think we have any of them on hand, but we have some great videos from some of the people who have been through the cohorts talking about just how they feel more empowered now to use technology in the classroom and to think about, I think the word that comes up a lot is intentional too, around, being much more intentional about use of ed tech and thinking about, oh, okay, like if I use this repeatedly through these ed tech routines, I can build these skills over time in my learners.
So we are over time, but
Yes,
I
it went
just
really
put our
fast.
contact information on the screen. So if you all want to reach out, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And we'll stay in touch and keep you posted on when we have more resources available and if there's future engagement opportunities, whether those are cohorts, ed tech maker spaces, other things. But thank you all for coming and thank you all online for being here too.